Howdy, folks. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome, wildcards, to the pre-launch stream for Legend of Ghost Mountain. We are super excited to be bringing this to you tomorrow on Kickstarter. Very excited.
And hey, how about that video by Cheyenne, huh?
Oh, so good.
Good old Cheyenne.
He's amazing.
He is definitely a wizard. And yeah, he makes it. I mean, I love that map effect where it's like 3D going over the map. And that's a great point. So for those of you who were in on the first campaign, that map's important because we have fleshed out the world greatly. This is a much bigger offering. We've got very soon, in just mere seconds, we'll wait till 6:06 at least before we'll show you the cool thing that we're giving to everybody who gets in at the box set level. We've never done it before, and we're super excited about it. We got a little prototype to show. But Shane, so while we're waiting for the big reveal, we'll do it soon. For folks who haven't been in on this, and this is the first time they're seeing Legend of Ghost Mountain, give us some background on what your initial idea was, and then we'll turn it over to Daryl to see how he fleshed it out.
So it all started with Kung Fu Panda. I walked out of that movie, what has it been? A long time ago, many years ago, thinking, man, we have got to do a savage setting that has all the cool stuff, you know, the vibes of this movie. It's our own thing. It's serious. You know, it's got a little bit of the horror stuff we like in it, but it's got that vibe to it. And I thought, you know, the twist I'd like to see, though, and this may not have been right then, it may have taken a while, was I didn't want to just do the standard animals, you know, the crouching tigers and the hidden dragons. I wanted to do something different, maybe something that was maybe a little more fun to role play. So we decided to go with emotions. And especially since this is not actually Japanese and it's not actually Chinese, you know, this is our own made up world based on a lot of Asian tropes. We were able to develop this all new cool system. And then years later, when we finally got to it, actually a quick funny anecdote. When we walked out of Kung Fu Panda, I was telling the friends I was with, I said, we have got to make this setting. We've got to do it. And I started talking about all the stuff we were going to do for it. And one of my friends, he's a programmer, he turned to me and he said, "Is this what it's like being in your head?" Yeah. Everything's inspiring, right? Everything you want to replicate and just live in that world. So anyway, yeah, I think everybody, you know, in our stream is probably that way, right? So, so years later, when we were finally able to get back to it, we asked Daryl to start doing this as a series of adventures. We were doing these 32-page adventures, and it just wasn't big enough. So we said, okay, let's try the saga approach, which is something we talked about for a while. And it was supposed to be kind of like a cross between the original Evernight, which is a scripted campaign, and our plot point campaign, somewhere between the two. And Daryl wrote that, and we launched that on the page last year. And it was very clearly obvious from the comments right away that people wanted the whole setting. They wanted the whole world. So we actually, in the meantime, were able to hire Daryl full-time. And then we were able to open up the world and say, Daryl, flesh it out. Let's do the whole thing, right? So if you've looked at, I guess you can't see the preview with the picture of the product yet. Can you show that?
I can.
Let's show what all is in this box besides this. Well, there's.
I mean, there's a banner and a sliding text crawl.
So let's go ahead and show the surprise.
Yeah, since it's right there.
Okay, so for folks who have the captioning, I'll actually read this because the Twitch is doing some cool stuff. So this is the $150 box set, includes the 192-page core book with plot point campaign, the Ghost Warden archetypes, pawns, 2 double-sided maps, the Central Empire map, a GM screen with adventure, action deck, dice, bennies, and because we've never done it before and it is super cool, a dragon mini, an Imperial dragon mini. So let me swap out what we're showing you guys for a second. We've got a cool animation that you guys can see. But our artist got this really nicely done. And check this out. Campaign exclusive, only going during the Kickstarter. We'll print a few extra copies to bring around to some conventions and events. But this is free for everybody who goes in for the box set. It's also its own pledge level. So if you're a miniature collector and you're not part of the Savage Worlds universe yet, perhaps we can draw you in, but you can get just this as a pledge level, and then it's also available as an add-on for all the other pledge levels.
So look at this guy. This isn't just a dragon in the set, just a random thing you run into. This is one of the big bads. This is the dragon.
Right.
What do you want to tell about it, Daryl?
Well, and so that was one of the initial challenges, right? Is like we know there's going to be an evil dragon, but in the kind of tropes that we're invoking, dragons tend to be a good thing, right? They're an embodiment of water and good, and like they're lucky. Like it's a good thing when there's a dragon around. So we needed to turn that on its head and be like, well, yeah, they are normally a good thing. However, just as humans can go bad and be corrupted, that can also happen to dragons. And you face enough humans that are like that and they're tough. And then 3 levels up from that, you've got this thing where it's like, oh yeah, by the way, good luck.
Right. And what's cool is, so the whole story that the plot point revolves around is there is this ghost gate, and that's where souls pass once the mortal form has died, and something has gone wrong there, and the ghost wardens who guard that gate are tasked with fixing it.
Right. You're supposed to go to the underworld like a good little soul, but sometimes people don't. And if as long as they go through the gate, it's all good, right? Like that's how it's supposed to happen. When people don't, and the other thing that's fun, and this is very common in the folklore too, is the spirit and the body are 2 different things. And things can go wrong with both, right? Like if the spirit wants to linger, and the longer it stays in the mortal realm, the more corrupt it becomes. But until it's corrupted, it's just someone that didn't want to go. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Maybe you can solve that problem peacefully, or maybe you got to punch the ghost in the face and make them go where they're supposed to go. Right. And then, but likewise, the body without a soul is supposed to just lay there and rot, but they've kind of got a life of their own in a way. And if a body is mistreated or unhappy enough with its circumstances, it tries to do something about it. They can get up, they can move around, and they're the unruly dead, and they're like a whole separate problem, which also falls under the jurisdiction of the ghost wardens.
Well, so Daryl, because tell us how you expanded this for folks familiar with, we teased this at the end of last year as a game changer, and it turns out it really buzzed along on Kickstarter. And we just found out, so because Kickstarter gets a preview of these things, this is going to be a Kickstarter project they love. It's a staff pick. So that is awesome. So awesome. We haven't gotten one of those in a fair bit. And so they're as excited as we are about it. So tell us how have you expanded this out? What is there?
Yeah. Well, I want to start by saying that Kung Fu Panda is no joke, y'all. Right? Like, if you're into the genre at all, like one of the things is you go into it with an expectation. You come out like, wait, that's actually a really freaking good martial arts movie. Like they kind of hit all of the points. That's really nice. So it's not a bad place to start from. And like completely independently of this project, I would be going on and on and on about my own particular fandom, with Shaw and the novels and all of that, which of course got Shane going, oh, really? Well, I've had this project kind of kicking around, and he showed me the original art. And what was interesting about expanding it out was when we started, it needed to be super focused, right? Like we've only got 32 pages and we have to establish so much, right? We've got to set up this gate. We've got to set up the kind of story that we're telling, and we've got to do something big that's going to invite people into the next thing. And the archetypes really helped with that. We're like, okay, we've kind of got them on the cover. We know who they are. We know what they do. I got to make sure that they can do those things, which is where the edges and the hindrance of things come from, and all sorts of deep discussions on how the emotional, martial arts actually work. We went through some variations on that. It was pretty fun. But in nailing that down, figuring out like, okay, we know they're based on emotions. Let's pull that into the dead too, right? Like that's the reason that they've got this emotional power is they're the sheriffs of this undead gate. And what makes a ghost not want to go to the underworld where it belongs, or what makes a body upset enough to act up, is these strong emotions. So it kind of all tied together. I was like, that was step one. And I don't even remember what I did wrong, but like on my first try, I was like, oh, and I think it should be this, this, and this. And Shane's like, well, no. That's not what I was thinking. But I didn't know that's not what I was thinking until you said that. I'm like, and that's how you kind of, like a sculptor, you work into the story that way.
You make me sound like a monster, Daryl.
No, I think it was a great way to work, right? It's like,
actually, Daryl and I, we've had just a fantastic collaborative relationship since back on Torg. And I think one of the reasons why is because neither of us are afraid to throw dumb ideas at the other.
And I got some dumb ideas, let me tell you.
Me too, buddy. And that's how you get the good stuff, right? Because when you're not afraid to just throw out all the wild stuff, then the coolest parts of it start kind of oozing out of those ideas. And you think, okay, what is it we're after here, right? And a lot of that stuff Daryl was able to really bring out in Ghost Mountain. And when we started playing it, I could see it and really get what he was going for. And it was a blast. We had so much fun playing it. Gosh, how long ago has it been since we played?
I think it was 2 years ago that I was doing this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all don't want to know how long it takes for us to get stuff out. We look so fast.
Well, it was done 2 years ago, but we got to that end point and we're like, this needs to be more like it deserves more than the 32-page treatment, which was a kind of initially a problem for me because I'd like kind of built it up to a certain point and then like, ha, the next poor fool's going to have to figure it out from here. And then I was that poor fool. I'm like, okay, let me build off of these hooks. Like I put them out there for someone to run with. Now I'm the one that's got to run with them. And then you take that next step. Like, all right, we had like what was essentially like a fifth of the map drawn. And it's like, well, all right, I guess I got to draw the rest of the map, even if we're not going to use it, just to know what's out there. And the main campaign takes place in the west and the center. There's 5 areas. It's a very traditional north, south, east, west center.
Can you show it, Chris? Can you pull up the
absolutely. So I think
I'm going
to throw up the campaign page. And so if you want to keep talking about, like, the one question is the strong emotion. I think is the one thing that really sets this apart as a unique concept in the wuxia martial arts genre. So if you want to, I'll throw up, let's see, here's the campaign page, guys, and we'll kind of go through
Let it finish on the map, and then we'll come back to it.
Do I have a...
Yeah, north, south, east, west. And the main adventure mostly takes place in west and center, but it moves north at one point, and then we have hooks to the south, and the south is actually our GM screen adventure. We go play there a lot and wreck some cities and, have rebellions and all that. And then we have information about the east, but that's kind of the open ground to play in.
We'll have to throw up a picture of just the map. Now it was the
Let's see if we can do that while Daryl tells us about emotions.
Yeah, well, and we went through quite a few iterations on this. And the first one, we're like, okay, we've got Chi Mastery in Suede, so we should be leveraging that in some way, right? Like that's a thing. So that's where we started. And originally it was just like, well, it's just Chi Master. Instead of Chi points, it's an emotion, and you can earn more by role playing. But just like in the regular one, you got one in every fight and you use it, and then you get it back fight after fight after fight. But what we found when we played it was like that wasn't quite enough. And they also had variations where it's like you got your basic edge that gives you same things that Chi Master does, being able to reroll attacks, add a die of damage, or everyone's favorite is make an enemy re-roll their attack against you. And they're like, I hit you with a raise. And you're like, nope. Power block. No, that did not happen. Oh, they rolled it again. Damn, they did.
But how does it tie into emotion?
Yeah, right. And then we add, like, that was the basics. And then like, okay, what are the 5 most major emotions? You look up, and pretty much every little feeling that you've got gets filtered into these major subcategories that they talk about. And they ended up being anger, joy, fear, disgust, and sorrow. And we're like, okay, we can work with that. And there's 5. We've got 5 archetypes. Win, winning. And then it was just a matter of narrowing down and saying, like, okay, how can an anger master express that power different from like a more general use of emotion? How does a sorrow user, feel different when you play them on the table? disgust. If you're using that, like you're going to be doing a lot of talk to the hand, stay away, or I don't do something gross and everyone wants to run away. So it's like, oh, clearly this is the area control, emotion going there. And for fear, it was like, oh, you could channel it offensively and make people scared, or you can embrace your own fear, and do things like I'll trigger adrenaline in a condition where I would normally make a fear test, which is super powerful. Like it doesn't come up super often because it's got to be pretty scary for a ghost warden to have to make a fear check. But when they do, everyone else is rolling and the fear master is like, I think I'll just take a free Joker instead. Thank you. Bah! They freak out and run, but in a very powerful and impressive way. Right?
Yeah, I think they express themselves the way you designed it in really cool and interesting ways, and it really feels like what the emotion should do. And I think watching the players play the emotions was the most incredible part, right? When the sorrowful guy would kill somebody and he would just weep over their body. And I played
tragedy
Zhao, and I was getting angry a lot and letting my fireburst speak for me. So it was just really fun to watch, everybody kind of just adapt that emotion and see how it guided them, almost like you would one of the animal tropes of typical, kung fu movies or something like I am the lion, I am the mantis, the crane, etc. That was really fun.
Yeah, and that was why we ended up discarding the one per fight thing. Because like, all right, no, we're gonna do 3 for the session, like we do Benny's, because you want to be able to role play it and be able to award that. It's like, oh yeah, you're really leaning into your emotion. I'm going to give you more emotion, like as you go. So it's a resource that you can build up. And because you've got the kind of general uses for it with the basic, kind of kung fu stuff, you can really use it. It comes in big during those big fights.
There we go. Look at that map.
Yeah. Yep.
After Cheyenne's amazing treatment of it in the video, we were giving Alita hell because the print version can't have floaty text. But we have not yet actually invented magic, but we're working on it.
Yeah, we're working. But yeah, and you can see on the west, you've got it's kind of built around a more desert motif, and that's where Ghost Mountain is and where the initial stages of the adventure take place. And you end up having to cross the mountains and go into the center where the capital are. And that's got the more richer, verdant fields and the better rivers, and everything's nicer, in the center.
Yeah, I'm having some flashback to those cliffs up there, buddy. That was an adventure.
You can't have cliffs in an adventure without having, lots of falling and or it's a missed opportunity otherwise. And then in the south, you get that more, jungly, swampy, area, and then the islands in the Fire Sea down even south of that, which is technically outside the Central Empire's boundaries, but don't tell the Central Empire that, they don't share with others. And then north is the steppe, very cold. So you got kind of very distinct, these geographical areas. And then the east is more plains and the coastline. And you got a lot to the Storm Sea off to the east. And that's where an entire other faction of invaders come from. They like to move in through that sea and do things.
Yeah, which is what's cool, because the plot point campaign takes you all over the place and you get to see a lot of this. But once Daryl once he was full time and able to flesh it out, it's a full setting now, and we can expand and keep doing stuff for this, forever. It is really cool, and it's really rich. I think another thing that's so great about Daryl's love of wuxia movies and just the whole genre is just how many different tropes come into this and how he's blended them together. So it really is its own thing. We had a good friend of mine, Tony Lee, who is Chinese, go through and make sure we knew what we were talking about here and there. But I mean, Daryl was pretty on the ball anyway.
I was so relieved that his comments were not like, "You suck."
No, he loved it. That was great.
The one was like, because there's some linguistic jokes in it, and one of them, there's a big thing like in written Chinese, and it works a little bit this way in kanji, but mostly in Chinese, where a lot of authors like to play with puns, where normally you'd read down and over, but if you read across and down instead, it forms different meanings. So I kind of wanted to play with that. One of our MacGuffins is the Mirror of Ever-Present Sight. And my original write-up was like, oh yeah, there's characters, like there's just 4 characters on the back. And essentially it reads one way, Mirror of Ever-Present Sight. It reads the other way, like, watch out, beware of knowledge. You know, like you don't want to know. And his no was like, you can't really do that in 4 characters. It would need to be more. So okay. I'm on the right track. I just have to, massage that a little bit.
Awesome. So for the folks who are just joining us, we got some comments. Christian showing up late. I'm going to pop up the Dragon Mini again. So again, this is we're doing a campaign exclusive 4.5-inch Dragon Mini, free for everybody who gets the box set. It is an add-on for everybody who doesn't, and then it is its own pledge level for folks who are miniature collectors. So you can throw that up on screen one more time.
And this is so the kind of thing that only Shane can make happen, because none of the rest of us would be ambitious enough to be like, you know what? We've never done a giant mini before. Let's do a giant mini and put it in the box. But Shane's just like, Dragon's pretty cool. Wish we had a mini for it. Can we make that happen? And there's just like this pause for 30 seconds. And we all know poor Simon's going to have to find out.
Simon did an amazing job of finding 3 artists who could get it on the turnaround we needed to be able to show it to you.
To make it happen. Yeah.
Nothing makes us happier than making Simon cries.
But that is true.
It comes out so cool. And hopefully, I'll paint mine with. So you can paint it different ways, right? Because on its base root, it's the Imperial Dragon. Like it's the symbol of the Central Empire. Like it's like a paragon of their power. And hey, spoiler alert, if it dies pretty early, that's not good news for the Central Empire as a whole. And you can paint it either way, right? You can paint it as its lifelike, golden scaled, awesome, lucky, benevolent version, or the battle damaged, messed up zombie, all the color drained from it, and its scales have turned black. You can do it that way with blood here and there. Ugh, I can't wait. That's probably what I'll do with mine. But. So good. Okay, so I'm going to throw up everything that's in the box set thing once again, and we'll take some questions, and then we'll get out of your head, guys. But so just so you guys know, we are launching this tomorrow, noon Eastern. It is a Kickstarter project they love. The box set, it's got a 192-page core book with a plot point campaign, the Ghost Warden archetypes, pawns, 2 double-sided maps, the Central Empire map, which is upgradable with stretch goals, would be pretty awesome, GM screen with adventure, an action deck, dice, bennies, and that amazing Dragon Mini. So cool. All that stuff is really cool. And we can actually, if we want, guys, we can show you the page right now. We'll go through it slowly and not quickly. I was doing that. I'm trying to find a picture of the map, which we don't show you large enough on the campaign page. So we'll fix that tonight.
Look at all that stuff.
I know. Right? It's so much stuff.
A lot of stuff.
And one thing we should say about the archetypes, just so people don't misunderstand, they're just like archetypes from any of our other settings, and that you can play them. Like if you're not sure what you want to do, they're there to guide and give you a feeling for the options. But you're not locked. Yeah, you're not locked into them like you never were. But these are cool because they're done the same way we did the Rifts ones, where they're little booklets. It's got the picture and then backstory and then stats, and then on the back we can describe some of the new powers and things that you might not be as used to. Save your reference for one spot there.
Yeah, it's good stuff, folks. It is really good stuff. So let me pull up the page, and if you guys go to a previous comment, I showed it to you guys, the Dragon Mountain page. Let's see, I'll put the link back in when we got the thing on the screen. Let's start showing it to you. Share screen. Right now there is a placeholder that will remind you when the campaign starts tomorrow. And let's see, here we go. That's the right one. Great. So if you head on over to this page, and I'll pop the link in the chat one more time.
Join us.
Right. And all of you guys who are on the email list, we're going to shoot out the email tomorrow and let you know. But if you do, there's the link, Kickstarter projects, Legend of Ghost Mountain. There is a reminder for folks, but this is the super secret preview page. And we'll show you guys what's available. So we've already got the video from Cheyenne. And So obviously art's not final, but it's pretty far along. So because Daryl did such a good job of expanding this super quickly, we got a bunch of more of the art orders we were waiting in. This is
I mean, and the artists were amazing. Like Alita wrangled them all, but oh my god, like every time they would send in like a new, character piece or for the pawns or whatever, I was just like, oh my god, that's so cool. It's cooler than what I described. Way to go.
So the cheapest way to get in, the least expensive, we're not cheap. The least expensive way to get in is the Player Digital. For $20, you get the Legend of Ghost Mountain PDF and the Archetype dossiers in PDF. For $25, you can just snag that miniature. So if you are joining us from the great OGL kerfuffle and want to get an awesome dragon miniature, pick this up. But consider back in for the whole thing because Savage Worlds is a great system, and this is a really cool setting.
One of the things we wanted to make sure of is that there was a level for different people's needs, right? Like not everybody wants or needs the same things, and so it's like okay, let's cover all those bases.
Exactly.
Need the box,
right?
You do need the box is way better, y'all. Like when we do it, we're like, well, I mean, duh, the box, but I get it. Everyone's a little different. So.
You know what's neat about the box, and this is how Kickstarter works, and why companies like us do a little better these days than we used to. So before Kickstarter and these big box sets and so forth, we would put out a book, and then we would maybe put out the maps, and we'd put out cards, and we'd put out accessories and so forth, right? And everything that you put out, the next thing sells a little bit less. It's that much more hard, that much more difficult to get people to know it exists, so that you can buy it if you want to, right? But with the box sets that we do now, where everything is there, we essentially are asking you to go ahead and get everything at once, and we cut the price of what all of those things would be dramatically for you, right? So it helps us get you the whole line. It helps you save money on it. And then, what we find, because we run and play the games, is everything you're really going to want is in there. So the pawns, for example, if you haven't seen our pawns, they are thick, they're double-sided, they actually have backs, they're die cut around the figure individually, so you can look at silhouettes and just know like that who's who, which is really hard if they're all square or all round or something, right? So we put a lot of effort into this. Simon and Jess particularly focus on those, and our artists, of course, who make them. And
they don't break if you drop them, so they travel really well.
Right.
Because I like miniatures a lot, so I'm like always hauling miniatures around. And damn, if like last week I didn't drop mine and break half the bases off. And I'm like, man, I kind of wish I had pawns.
And I've been talking about this on our Facebook page lately, but I run Savage Worlds in layers, right? So the first layer to me is just, I ask you for a skill check, you give me a number, and we kind of wing it and see, how much I think you find out or how much you notice or detect or whatever. And then there's kind of the second level, still all theater of the mind, where I will, maybe attack you with something, and we're going to look at your parry and your toughness and that kind of thing, and we're going to apply those results. But we don't break out the miniatures and the battle maps. The third level is the miniatures and the battle maps, and we really want to do that. But even within that, sometimes you just want to know general positioning, right? Okay, well, where am I again? How many bad guys are there? Did you say you got this one last time? And that's where pawns and stuff are really nice with the tactical maps we have to just put down and say, here's what they are. Even if you don't want to do, all the movement and stuff that the game absolutely supports at that lowest, crunchiest tier.
Right.
Which, I've talked about many times. I love that it's there. So when I want it, and when I don't have to just decide by fiat, you're not going to make it, or you win or whatever. This looks tight. Let's game it out and see what happens.
Yep. Yeah. And it just helps, like you said, set that scene, which is like the most difficult thing when you're doing it. Theater of the imagination is like, I didn't know there was a cliff 10 feet away.
Right.
Like when there's at least a little bit of a map there, I was like, oh, there's a giant cliff there. I can maybe use that. I can push a guy off it.
That's actually I'll give a little spoiler. It's a minor one, but those mountains I was mentioning earlier, we wound up stuck on a very narrow path. And Daryl uses miniatures the same way I do. He puts them down and kind of gives us general positioning. And if we want to break out into the crunchy stuff and count spaces and all that, we absolutely do that, a fair amount too. But in this particular situation, he drew the map, the narrow roadway. There were some wagons blocking the way. We were all on our horses, and it was very clear what had to happen. And let's just say some horses were sacrificed to save player characters. It was tough and it hurt because we all named our horses. And we weren't getting new ones.
Pro tip, y'all, always make your players name their horses.
Right?
It's going to hurt when you inevitably
Yeah, it was a tough scene, Daryl.
You cruel man, Daryl. I mean,
I didn't do it.
we have to put a no actual animals were harmed in the creation of this game warning on the thing now.
They're the only group that's, well, one other horse was lost in all the other run-throughs of that scenario. So you guys are monsters. That's the problem.
Whatever. It is a great plot point campaign. It's really fun. And I think it has, that magical essence we look for where you're not just told what to do. You have choices about what to do. So the party decides where they want to go and can easily, I've got a personal subplot I want to go resolve in this village. And there is some time, if you want there to be, built in to do that. And I think that's the best kind of plot point campaign, right? Where there are big things to do and they matter, but there's also room. What is it? I think John Wick or somebody, calls it the space between the towns, right? It's the spaces on the map that aren't filled in that you can do stuff. And honestly, just like encounter generators and so forth, your own adventures, that kind of stuff is just so fun to work in there because you can tailor it to your characters even more so than the plot point campaigns.
And that's one of the things that we got to add in that latest round was adventure generators, including a specific one that generates haunts. Like, oh, is this ghosts? Is this bodies? Is this demons? Is this humans pretending to be one of those three things? And with all the twists and things like that can come up. So if you do need at that space between, I need to fill it with something, or I need to build something very specific for the background of a character. Flip your cards, roll a couple dice, and you got a whole adventure there, ready to go.
So I want to ask a question before we take general questions. So Daryl, Chris just scrolled past the battle mat or the battle tracker stretch goal.
Yeah.
Folks, what's cool about that and why it might be important?
Yeah, so mass battles show up in this. It's a big epic story, right? And that means there's going to be armies. And that's part of the build up to it is there are armies involved, which means you guys are all you're veteran, awesome martial artists with incredible powers, but it's still an army. So you're going to need more than just 5 people to actually get this job done. And you can recruit around that and you can manage them and you can be a general at the head of that. But, you're going to need someone to fight with you and for you. And we tried to make sure that there's enough mass battles. There's basically 3 across the story of the campaign.
I would say there's opportunities for mass battles.
That's true. Opportunities is a better way to say it.
Some of them might not happen, right?
That's true. But the nice thing is when they're out there, one of the things that I find is people don't buy a battle skill because they think it'll never come up. And then you hit an early mass battle and you're like, oh my God, someone needs to buy that skill. And if they do, you're that much more prepared when the stakes raise later on. And then the battle mat is it helps manage mass battles. It's kind of got the same information that you've got in Suede on it, but you've got a place to stack the tokens. You've got an easy place to measure modifiers and, hit morale and lost tokens and things like that, just to make it a little bit easier on everybody to get into the big mass battle.
Well, it's really great for the players, right? Because the GM knows what's going on, but as Don mentioned, he's the one who came up with them, I think.
Yes.
But they really help when Daryl sets it out and we can all see what's going on and what's at stake. And that's where being super creative with your support and the way the mass battle character interactions work and so forth, that's really cool. And it really helps bring that out into player characters. And I say opportunity because Daryl has written the campaign in a way that you can do lots of things, right?
You definitely got options. Yeah.
Yeah, you got options. You don't have to get into the mass battles. I think that's, you're probably going to, but some clever players may have found ways around some of those obstacles in their campaigns because they focus on other things.
Yeah. Then it also depends on what you care about, right?
Exactly.
If you care about keeping certain things intact, you'll want to fight the mass battle. If you're like, meh, that's somebody else's problem. You can still, do the important piece of your job, but there's consequences for that. Other things might get harder, like, oh, we've lost access to these roads because they're now in enemy hands. Now what?
And it matters because now you got to find a way around. There might be more encounters that way. It might be dangerous.
There might be these cliff roads that are really narrow that you can get pushed off of.
Exactly. It's all just really well integrated. Daryl just did a fantastic job, and it was just so fun to play. So, as the publisher, it's just really exciting to be able to finally share this with people and get it out there, the way that the Yama Kings intended, for
the Underworld Kings.
Full set.
Yeah.
So we'll open it up to some questions for folks. We're super excited. Jody mentioned it's the first time we've really shown anybody the Kickstarter page before we've launched, even stretch goals. And the
extra time buys you, everybody.
Right? We figured we wanted to get at least one stream in before we launched. We moved it from Tuesday to Thursday. So it's like, people want to see the mini and talk about it first and plan their budgets a little bit more. So that's why we're launching on Thursday. And then, one of the top stretch goals, if we get there, is upgrading that map into like a faux silk style map, which would be really cool.
Everyone in the office super wanted the fabric. Can we do that?
Let's unlock that one.
Where does it make sense?
Yeah, I think we're all old enough to play the old computer games where they used to come with cloth maps like Ultima. Yeah. We're like, we want this so bad.
Yep.
I see Jody's in the chat, so we should wish Jody happy birthday again.
Oh, birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Oh, you're not going to sing with me? I'm the only one on here. Well, happy birthday, Jody.
Happy birthday, Jody.
50th? Oh.
Yeah. You're watching 49th birthday.
Jody enjoyed her 50th so much. She's going to do it again next year.
Oh, I love Jody. It's so great. Her sisters had to tell her, no, Jody, you're not 50, you're 49.
Jody just wants those AARP benefits.
Right? Yep.
We love you, Jody.
I did somehow score a senior discount on donuts the other day. They didn't even ask me, but I guess I'm gray enough to be like, oh, here's your senior discount. And I'm like, man, that's terrible, but also it's 60 cents off. I think I'll take it.
Attaboy.
Whenever I wear my little Kurtz hat, people think I'm ex-military because I'm in Colorado Springs, so everybody is military. So they always ask, military discount? I'm like, no. Sorry, I will not stolen valor for a cheaper donut.
Absolutely not.
That's my diet plan. Don't get donuts cheaper, make them more expensive. Anyways, some great comments. When are we going to get Suede in? So hopefully March. So you guys have been amazing. Our entire first quarter stock of Suede, we thought we had plenty. We had over 1,000 copies in the warehouse, and then poof,
over-ordered and still.
So first week of January, they all disappeared for some strange reason, which we don't have to
in a
talk
week.
About. In a week, 1 week. So thank you so like I said, it's a little awkward for all my retailer pushes. I'm like, hey guys, let's do post-Christmas restocks, and we have no books till March. So we do have some awesome settings though planned this year. Let's see. Christian asked, "Is this taking place of the?" Nope, not taking place in the Martial Arts Companion.
No, but that is not. It's not. It's definitely not coming this year. We're gonna work some things out, and then we'll come back with it. We did have the monsters for Martial Arts Companion written quite a while ago, so they're sitting around, but they need to be updated. I think it's been a while, and having to do the Pathfinder Big Bestiary section and then make it work with the Fantasy Companion monsters was a fantastic exercise for us because a lot of our monster expectations are based on D&D and the monster manual and so forth, right? All of us as gamers, and Pathfinder adapts most of those tropes, which is great. That's what most of us want. But what Wiggy had written in the old Fantasy Companion a lot of times were the historical or folklore tropes of things like goblins are very different than they are in Tolkien lore, right, or Tolkien derived lore. So in fantasy we were able to disambiguate some of those things and give you both. Some we gave you in Pathfinder, some we gave you in Fantasy Companion. That worked out really well, and that also helped us standardize monstrous abilities and come up with some new ones we knew we needed. So we'll go back through the martial arts creatures and update them that way. And we have some fun extras for martial arts action that is it's not what the Legend of Ghost Mountain needed. It's more traditional, but with some cool new stuff, but not the whole big crazy thing we've been envisioning. So not yet.
Awesome. This one's easy.
So versions of the maps. Yeah.
One, yes, all of our products will eventually become to all the VTT platforms. In the campaign, yes, you will get PDF copies of all the good stuff. So like the pawns.
If you're on a tier with maps.
That's true. Yes, yes, correct. But like if you get the pawns, you'll get the figure flats as the digital version of that. So.
Yeah, it's the do-it-yourself version that will come with this because you'll get the PDFs and so forth. The Foundry or Fantasy Grounds versions, so you can use all those in Roll20, right? But the Foundry and Fantasy Grounds versions will be separate, and we'll talk about those once we get some more information from Sigil VTT, which is one of our sister companies. So they're on the agenda, on their schedule. But we're not quite sure what's going on there yet because of OGL stuff and everything with just the whole VT industry. But we'll get back to it. It'll be there.
Right. And that's very much this exact same question. Will it be VTT? So I already answered that.
Sure will.
So yeah, just for some more info on that, one of the big reasons we aren't putting the VTT in the campaigns is just the timelines. Like Kickstarter only allows us so many active Kickstarters. And because VTT needs final 3.0 expletive files to actually start their work on that, we don't want to wait around for digital delivery of VTT assets to be able to launch our next Kickstarters. So those will always become after the campaign for the actual platforms. And that allows you guys to pick those up when they're actually ready and not have to wait around for those. And we can satisfy our Kickstarters. So. It's one reason we're separating those out. I don't think we've ever made a decision not to have a VTT development of anything. So the team is switching off between kind of going through the back catalog a bit and then keeping up with the Kickstarters and the other crowdfunders we're doing. So it's a lot of work on them, and they're amazing, but they can't just snap their fingers.
They've got a lot.
Right. And just so everybody out there knows, our Sigil VTT team is led by Amy Marshall, and we do VTT for Pinnacle, Chaosium, Ulysses, Pathfinder Paizo, Free League, just a whole bunch of amazing companies. That's why I've said a bazillion times online, we're all friends out there in the game industry. We are. And that's, one of the services. Sigil did that, has been doing that for the last couple of years. And you may know Aaron Acevedo has had some, life health problems. So we stepped in helping them out, but they still run it independently. Amy's still the president. So, it's, they're doing a ton of work, and they also do really good work. So it does take a little while, though.
Yeah. The question for you, Daryl, let's see. Will there be any illusions or Easter eggs related to other Savage Worlds settings?
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah,
so most of the illusions in the game are to Wuxia novels and movies. I call them Eastern eggs, or to folklore, existing folklore and stuff like that. I know there has to be stuff from Savage Worlds that bled in there because it's just ingrained in me. I'm trying to think of an example of one, but I know they're there, and someone will throw it in my face later just because I can't stay away from stuff like Necessary Evil and 50 Fathoms and all that. I do know one of the creatures is pretty much just from was inspired by the Horror Companion. There's some crossover there. It's Horror Companion, this deserves to be in here. This is a thing. Absolutely, it should show up here.
Which is out now. If you didn't back it when we did it, you can go and pre-order it right now, by the way. Maybe somebody can throw a link up on one of the live channels. But the Horror Companion has a lot of great stuff you could add to this.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of other projects, you had a question on Holler. So yes, Holler is shipping. So if you haven't got
your box
yet, expect it. It is amazing and gorgeous. And I think Holler is a great comparison to Legend of Ghost Mountain as kind of the awesome things that Savage Worlds can do that are very, very different and unique from stock high fantasy. And really great box sets. The Holler box set is fantastic. If you've got it on the campaign, the Shane's showing that limited edition leatherette cover made with real sheep squatch skin, which is awesome. And more good news for Holler. Holler is going to be a graphic novel. So
yeah.
Or a comic at least. I don't think we've promised a graphic novel yet. It's coming as a comic.
Well, and the other like good comparison with Holler, right, is they're both things that show you some of the stories that you can tell with Suede, right? Like you've got that core box with all this stuff, and then Holler and Legend of Ghost Mountain help you use that stuff. Like, hey, here's some awesome new things that you can do with this, which we talked about in this book. Here's doing it. Here's what it looks like at the table. And like, I always find that super exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then, I mean, not to toot our own horn, but I'm going to toot our own horn. We can do hillbilly horror fantasy. We can do wuxia fantasy. We can do kaiju. If you haven't seen our Dawn of the Daikaiju supplement that Sean and Robin Bircher wrote.
Bircher, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just got, I mean, it's all over, right? And it's the scale is incredible. I mean, Andy Hopp did irradiated Twinkies.
Low life.
In low life, yeah. So I mean, we're very proud of what our system has been able to handle through the years. I think Superpowers Companion, it is my, I play everything. Daryl and our little gaming group, we really do play everything. Daryl just ran Free League's Aliens for us a couple of weeks ago. That was fun. But like
they all died.
We did all die. Absolutely my favorite super system. And I played, all the way back from Marvel's Phase Rip. I played Mutants Best Mind. I love all those. But, we all learn from each other, grow, and Superpowers Companion. When we played Daryl's Cosmic Crisis, Necessary Evil 3, which will be coming very soon, it was so fun. And maybe we'll get on a live stream and I'll even do my Black Hole voice.
Your Black Hole. Yeah, I mean, and I played Champions for 20 years, right? That was my superhero system of choice. But I started using Savage Worlds for super, the SPC stuff, the old one and the new one's even better. And it's I can't go back now. Even if when I do on a Throwback Thursday or something, it's oh, I should just do this in Savage Worlds. I just have more fun.
So one great comment about starting Holler when the VTT stuff comes up. So we just mentioned our VTT's got to schedule all their own. The great thing is Amy let me know that their aim is to get Holler out before the end of this month. So when you get your books in the mail, it won't be too long for the VTT to launch for that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to put Amy on the hook for it, but since she did it herself, awesome.
Right? Isn't that great? So that is coming very, very soon. That is awesome. That's the next thing we'll be releasing on the VTTs. And so super excited about that. The other couple of questions about projects that are out. So Fantasy Companion hasn't shipped yet. Same with Hell in High Plains. We will actually get an update probably tonight on those. We're just waiting back for a more firm quote from the printers to see when the pipeline works. But those are all at the printer and
paper, man.
I know it's crazy. It's still kind of crazy. There's still echoes of all the craziness, but it has gotten a little bit better, folks. So
there's still a paper shortage too, and it's killing some of the cards and things we put in them. So sometimes the book's all done and it's just sitting there, but some of the little components hurt it. So we could just stop doing all the cool components, but we're not going to do that, right? So and we don't know these things until far late in the process. But,
this is a rare miss on Simon having to send something back to the printer for not coming out great. Was the card stock that is now out of stock wasn't good enough for our old stuff, so we had to wait for some better stuff. So there is a little bit of delay on all the projects that have cards, and since that's all the projects, I think they all got bumped at least a month.
That's right. And if you've been with us for a while, you might remember some of the card decks we've done in the past as we learned what we were doing. Were just too thin. You couldn't shuffle the cards. They didn't really fall apart or anything. They were tough, but you couldn't shuffle them. They just didn't feel right. So, paper experts will tell you, it's the kind of core you put in them. So I think it's, German black core, I think is what it's called. Simon handles all this stuff these days. But we only get that stuff now. And that's why, we're super proud of what we put in the box. It is the absolute best we can do. You can stand on the boxes pretty much. They are crazy strong. Don't try that. It's pretty close, right?
They're good. They're great. So we'll get you the Hell in the High Plains update ASAP. Here's one for Shane.
April.
Yeah, that's where
it should have been January or December, but the paper issue. Sorry.
This one's for Shane. Any luck getting Thundar?
So I'll tell you the honest truth. CJ. So I I have friends all over the place. I'm very fortunate that way, and from video game work and doing this for so many years. And I emailed a former friend from Cryptic Studios who works at Warner Brothers. I emailed and called a licensing agent that I know. I found 3 different contacts at Warner Brothers that I called. I don't think any of them know they had it. So finally, after like 6 months of going back and forth trying to find the right person, I did find the right person. And she said, it's not something we're licensing right now. So where does that leave us? Well, right now, it's that's not a no. So I'm going to give it time. And, every couple of months, I'm going to ping that person back. And if I can ever get the rights to do so, I'm going to license it and we're going to make that game because I love Thundar. There's only a few properties left that I actually want to license. The rest of our agenda, I really want to stay focused on our own properties. And, hopefully one of these days we'll be able to announce all the stuff that we are trying to do with our properties, whether it's books, comics, films, computer games, all that stuff. Nothing is hit yet, but we work on it constantly. Stuff is always in the works. Some things are pretty far along and might happen. Some things have been very far along and didn't happen. So, we just don't know till it does. But there's only a few things left we really, really want to license. And Thundar is definitely one of them. I'm a fanboy.
If you've seen it, you are a fanboy.
Right?
That's right.
We ride!
How about Doc Savage? Someone's saying that's coming into public
Demon
domain.
Dogs.
I love Doc Savage. That is Doc Savage, right? You probably can't see it. Let's see. It's a whole lineup of Doc Savage right there. Those are the Doc Savage reprints. But I don't know if it'd make a good setting because it is really just about Doc Savage. I know that's not really true. I've read them, but that would be a little tougher.
It's like the challenge with Indiana Jones, right? It's like everybody loves it. It's super pulpy, but it's about the main character, right? So
right, or the story is Doc Savage's amazing friends, and our game is his amazing friends.
Right. And I think we do still want to do a pulp companion and a post-apocalyptic companion along with the martial arts companion. And I will tell you that while those books aren't written, the art for Red and Gabe on the final page for all of them is done. I have them, and it tells a story. So for Doc Savage, I think I would prefer to just get that pulp companion out, and it'll probably be a year or two, and then we'll talk about running Doc Savage style campaigns. I think that's the approach we would go with.
That's legit. So speaking about upcoming cool stuff, someone asked, is there any other super setting besides the Incredible Necessary Evil?
So this is a tricky one. So in the Superpowers Companion, we talk about Doomguard. And Simon and Mike Barbeau, Simon Lucas, who is is actually Pinnacle's president, have been working on a board game. The high level pitch is Supers versus Cthulhu. Okay. And you may have seen that in its original form from Aaron Acevedo when he called it Strange Eons. We bought it from Aaron when we bought it and took it over, and he's still involved with it. And we turned it into Doomguard, and Mike and Simon have turned it into a board game. So we hope to launch that this summer. The guys took it to Board Game Geek convention and did demos and stuff there. We've played it here many times in Arizona, and we love it. So Necessary Evil is now part of the Doomguard universe. So Necessary Evil is kind of like that big mini-series that happened in the Doomguard world. We don't have the Doomguard book or setting on the schedule yet, but we will, and it may or may not happen, somewhere in conjunction with the board game. Probably not, because our dance card is pretty full for the rest of the year, especially with Deadlands Dark Ages on the way. So, a small company, we make too many lines, but I'm not going to change it because it's what we like to do.
And like any good comic book, there is, of course, a crossover.
Nice. One question about the campaign. Will stretch goals for Ghost Mountain be tied to a certain backer tier? Not all the stretch goals are available to everybody. For the print stuff, you got to be on a print backer level.
Yeah, like the cloth map, you only get if you get a tier that comes with the map. Stuff
Which
like
is
that.
the box set.
Yeah.
But those are pretty well explained on the page when you see it tomorrow. And or if you want to pause and go back and review the video, you can see which ones are for which. I think we explain them.
Yeah, right. And look, I'm not a sales guy. They don't let me in the booth when we go to conventions because I just give stuff away because I genuinely just think of everybody as people I play games with. But for this particular one, get the box because everything in it is just, especially if we unlock all the stretch goals, is just going to be amazing. Some of it will be offered in the pledge manager afterwards, but when we run out, we run out, and I just can't guarantee it. But you definitely want the box. That is by far the best deal you're going to get.
It's a killer price. So the pledge is $150. If you want another one, the add-on is $175, and then retail is going to be higher than that, guaranteed.
Right. Yeah, the actual value on our side is much higher.
Yes.
I know that much.
If you bought it individually, much higher. So yeah, it's a great deal. Campaign. So I think we're almost at the end. I think one more question about. So we're going to do up Gen Con this year for sure. There are other great Savage Worlds conventions around the country like Chupa, etc. Jody makes the rounds pretty well. I think Daryl's going to be your next convention is going to be Denver, right?
Yeah, so speaking of this game, I am running Ghost Mountain at Genghis Con. I am running Ghost Mountain at Chupacabra Con in May. And I will very likely be running it at Gen Con as well.
And then hopefully you'll be running it at the end of the year event. We're looking to do another Savage Destination event like we did Deadwood a year and some ago. Looking closer to the end of the year so folks have time to plan and get tickets and all that good stuff.
Jose, you'll have to announce it before I can promise anything.
Right. So, yeah, we're looking to get that done. So the second we get a contract with the hotel, we'll be able to announce that. And other than that, folks, we've hit our hour. We do have a group of fans who want to start running some online games to bring people in into Savage World. So we're going to fold that into the Savage Universe project so folks can get into some awesome Savage Worlds introductory games. And so with that, folks, okay, so tomorrow, noon Eastern, the Legend of Ghost Mountain Kickstarter starts in earnest. We thank you for your patience on letting us make this amazing box set and all the cool stuff that we've added to it. One more time for folks who didn't get to see it, there is a campaign exclusive 4.5-inch Imperial Dragon miniature that is free for everybody who gets the box set. That's the best choice. Go in for the box set. It's $25 as an add-on. Otherwise, also its own campaign level. But yeah, that is really special. We're so glad that we're going to be able to bring that to you guys. It is part of the talents and skills that we've started to acquire doing something like Doomguard. And that was Doomguard is amazing minis with it. So Doomguard will hopefully be coming to a board game table near you. And
special thanks to Connor at Limelight Miniatures who did the dragon.
Yeah,
amazing work,
and turnaround was fantastic. So we're excited, folks. So we'll see you tomorrow for the end of day launch stream. Most of the same faces will be back, and we'll just be congratulating all of you for your good taste in getting behind this campaign. And we'll see how many stretch goals we open up by tomorrow. So we'll see you guys all tomorrow. Cheers, and maybe we'll play the Cheyenne video.
Last word. The game industry has gone through some tough times last couple of weeks, right? Whether, regardless of what you think about all this OGL stuff, it created a lot of uncertainty. So, launching a Kickstarter in the middle of this is tough, but we have to do it. That's what the schedule demands because of all the other stuff we have going on. So, we greatly appreciate if you back the product, of course, but also just as importantly, just share on whatever social media you're on and let people know it exists. We don't want to twist anybody's arm to buy it, but it is just so hard for a tiny company like ours to get the word out. You just wouldn't believe how many people we get that we think we know personally, who play in our game sometimes, didn't know we had just run a huge Kickstarter. It is really hard. So if you can help us spread that word, that is the absolute best thing you can do for us. Thanks very much for doing so.
Yeah, there's the link. It's in the comments, and that'll take you to a sign-up page. There's over 400 of you who are already signed up. That is amazing. And hopefully a whole bunch of you will jump on first day and work the Kickstarter algorithm. But if our little presentation in an awesome 4.5-inch Dragon Mini doesn't get your blood pumped for this, I think Cheyenne's video will. So we're going to exit one more time with this amazing video, and we'll see you folks tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.